In the frozen, unforgiving soil of the Eastern Front, a silent war was being waged. A war not of bullets and tanks, but of picks and shovels in the dark. For a month, a deadly threat grew unseen, inching its way beneath the feet of an unsuspecting battalion. The plan was flawless, the secrecy absolute. But it all hinged on one impossible premise: that no one was listening. Pause. This is the story of when German sappers tunneled for a month to deliver a cataclysmic blow, and how one Soviet soldier, with nothing but his own 2 ears, heard their every single move. The date was January 17th, 1943. The location: a heavily fortified sector of the Soviet front line near the besieged city of Leningrad. Here, the men of the 142nd Rifle Division of the Red Army dug in, facing the formidable 212th Infantry Division of the German Wehrmacht. The landscape was a monochrome hell of deep snow, frozen earth, and shattered trees. The war had stalemated into a brutal war of attrition, of sniper duels and punishing artillery barrages. But the German High Command had a different, more ancient weapon in mind: mining. Since the trench warfare of the Great War, military mining, the art of digging tunnels beneath enemy positions to plant massive, explosive charges, had been a tactic of siege-breaking finality. The Germans designated specialized combat engineers, pionieri, for this very task. At this sector, a platoon of these sappers, battle-hardened and meticulous, received their orders: dig a deep offensive mine gallery from the German forward trench, over 150 meters through the frozen subsoil, to a point directly beneath a key Soviet strongpoint. The resulting explosion would not just destroy the position, it would vaporize it, annihilating the defenders and blasting a fatal hole in the Soviet line. The operation began in absolute secrecy. The Pioneer worked in rotating shifts, day and night, their progress masked by the constant, random thunder of daily artillery exchanges. They braced the tunnel with heavy timber, installed ventilation pumps, and used specialized, muffled tools to minimize sound. To the Soviet soldiers in the bunker above, men like Senior Sergeant Ivan Mikhailov, a squad leader, the war continued as normal. There were patrols, there was incoming mortar fire, there was the endless, grinding cold. But Mikhailov was not a typical soldier. Before the war, he had been a musician, a violinist with a promising future at the Leningrad Conservatory. His world had been one of perfect pitch, of delicate harmonies, of listening for the most subtle nuances in sound. Now that world was shells and screams, yet his gift remained. Pause. About 2 weeks into the German operation, Mikhailov began to notice something off. During the rare lulls in shelling in the dead of night, he would hear it. A faint, almost imperceptible thump, thump, scrape. It was rhythmic. It was mechanical. And it was coming from below. He reported it to his platoon commander, who initially dismissed it as groundwater, or the settling of the frozen earth. But Mikhailov's ear, trained to isolate a single violin in an orchestra, was not fooled. He began to listen with a scientific intensity. By January 25th, the sounds had grown more distinct. He could now differentiate the bite of a pick into clay from the scrape of a shovel moving debris. Using a simple medical stethoscope procured from a field medic, he would press the diaphragm against the frozen wooden floorboards of the bunker and the cold earth walls. Pause. What he heard confirmed his worst fears. He wasn't just hearing digging, he was hearing construction. The sharp report of a hammer driving a support timber, the gritty slide of a sandbag being placed. He could trace in his mind's ear the direction of the digging. It was moving, methodically, diagonally, from the German lines toward their very feet. By February 10th, the tension within the Soviet bunker was palpable. Mikhailov's warnings could no longer be ignored. Command had sent sappers of their own to investigate, but surface listening posts detected little. The frozen ground muffled sound, and the German countersound discipline was excellent. The battalion was facing an invisible subterranean countdown. Every man knew the history of Messines Ridge in 1917, where mines had killed 10,000 soldiers in seconds. The psychological toll was immense. Every moment spent in that bunker could be their last. Sleep was impossible. The fear was not of a frontal assault, but of being atomized without warning, of the very ground beneath them erupting into a fiery grave. They were sitting on a powder keg, and the fuse was already lit. On the night of February 14th, Mikhailov, his face gaunt from lack of sleep, conducted his most critical listen. The sounds were now alarmingly clear and close. He estimated the enemy tunnel was within 20 meters. Time had run out. He proposed a desperate, audacious plan. Instead of waiting to be destroyed, or attempting a futile countermine that might trigger the charge, they would use the enemy's own work against them. Using his acoustic bearings, Mikhailov pinpointed what he believed was the central chamber of the enemy mine, the castle, where the explosives would be piled. Soviet combat engineers, guided by Mikhailov's hand-drawn sound map, began their own rapid and silent operation. From a hidden side trench, they started a shallow, downward-sloping shaft. Their goal was not to intercept the German gallery directly, but to get close enough to its estimated location. They worked with brutal speed, their own sounds masked by a carefully arranged Soviet mortar barrage on the German front line, a barrage requested specifically to provide acoustic cover. After 36 hours of non-stop digging, the Soviet shaft was ready. On the morning of February 16th, in a moment of breathtaking risk, a team of Soviet sappers, armed with compact pole charges and flamethrowers, prepared to breach. Mikhailov, listening one final time, gave the signal. The earth wall between the two tunnels was shattered, with a small explosive charge. What happened next was not a battle, but a horrific, close-quarters annihilation in the dark. Soviet troops flooded into the German gallery, catching the pioneer completely by surprise. Flamethrowers cleared the cramped space. The carefully stacked high-explosive charges, meant for the strong point above, were disarmed. The silent war had been decisively lost by the Germans, because one man had listened. The German mining operation was completely destroyed. Intelligence gleaned from the captured gallery provided invaluable data on German siege tactics. The 142nd Rifle Division's section of the line remained secure, and a catastrophic loss of life was averted. For his extraordinary vigilance, technical skill, and sheer courage, Senior Sergeant Ivan Mikhailov was awarded the Order of the Red Star. His citation specifically noted his exceptional auditory acuity and personal initiative, which uncovered and led to the destruction of a major enemy subversion operation. The legacy of this strange encounter is a testament to the multifaceted nature of warfare. In an age of increasingly mechanized and industrialized killing, a skill born in the concert halls of Leningrad proved to be a decisive weapon. It underscores a fundamental truth. Technology and strategy can be rendered null by human ingenuity and sensory perception. Mikhailov's story is not one of epic tank battles or daring aerial dogfights, but of patience, perception, and the quiet, nerve-shredding terror of a threat you cannot see, but can only hear approaching through the earth.